Welcome to Portage County Matters. I'm Patty Dreier. We were giggling a little before the show, so forgive us right now. I'm really glad that you've joined us. Of course, the subject matter is timely. This month it is groundwater because it's public input time for groundwater management in Portage County. So I'm looking forward to the show. I have two top fast things to mention first, though. First of all, Portage County government has a new website. The address is www.co.portage.wi.us, the same address that we had for the county's website before, but we have a brand new look, a brand new opportunity for us to reach out and hopefully by the time we're finished in our development, make it a much more effective website for everybody all the way around. If you have ideas or issues, since it's a work in progress right now, we hope that you'll give my office a call at 715-346-1997 and talk to Jamie. Thanks. And then the other note that I wanted to mention was about Budget 2017. We're working really hard on that budget, and I can't tell you that we're not behind the ball, just a little bit on it, to be very honest. But at the same time, we've been making some good headway. And on Tuesday, October 4th, I will make my budget presentation to you in our community as well as the county board. And this is a statutory duty of this office of county executive. So the county exec kicks off the budget process, brings it forward, and then from there it gets reviewed and further shaped by the county board and citizenry. So I hope that you will get involved in finding out more about the budget presentation that I make on the 4th. You'll be able to find the budget documentation at the Portage County website. If you have any questions, of course, I hope you'll contact my office right away and we'll get you connected with that info so that you can weigh in. The public input time frame is primarily from the time I deliver the budget address on October 4th through October 24th. The annual meeting of the county board and budget adoption meeting is November 1st. So this is your time, everybody, to weigh in and help make it the best it can be for 2017 and going forward for Portage County. Now I would like to welcome my guest, Jen McNelly. She's our water resource specialist for Portage County and works out of the Planning and Zoning Department. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Yes, definitely. Of course, groundwater being a subject that folks know is dear to my heart, I absolutely know it's dear to your heart too.
Absolutely. So
now, let's talk about what groundwater is first, and then a little bit about what kind of planning process is going on and the opportunity that citizens have to participate.
Sure. Well, groundwater is pretty simple. It's really the water that's underground that's stored in the pores or the spaces between different soil particles, or where there's bedrock, where there's a crack or a fracture. So it's not an underground river or a lake or a stream like you'll sometimes hear, but it's rather just filling all the little spaces in between the soil that's underground. Groundwater can move between those spaces, and so in the sandy soils, like we find throughout much of the county, it's relatively easy for that to travel, and it travels from higher elevations to lower elevations. And a lot of times our lower elevations are our lakes and our rivers and streams in the county. And so you're going to find groundwater discharging to those, which makes us a little bit unique that our groundwater resources are very closely tied to our surface water resources. So while not everybody thinks about groundwater all the time, you know, you drive by a lake and you can see it and it's very visual, but they're often tied together. And so what happens to our groundwater is also happening to our surface water as well.
And where does our drinking water then enter the picture?
That's a great question. 100% of our domestic use in Portage County is actually from groundwater. So all the water that's used by people, it comes from groundwater resources and from wells that are pumping it out of the ground. About 70 to 80% of our ag irrigation comes from groundwater as well, and a little bit less from industrial.
And for making beer and distilling vodka in our county, and for using in any other business or medical facility or whatever. It's all coming from groundwater.
Yep, a huge resource for our county that we all depend on greatly.
So one of the topics of the show that I wanted to bring forward was the fact that we're doing groundwater management planning. This is not new in Portage County, but I want to help people understand about where have we come from and where are we going when it comes to planning. And we'll be able to integrate a little bit more about who does this core planning work through our Groundwater Citizen Advisory Committee, so we can weave all of these things together.
Sure. Portage County is a little bit unique. We're only in one of just a couple counties in the state of Wisconsin that actually have a groundwater management plan. Marathon County to our north is one of the closest counties that also has one. But we've been planning longer than any other county in the state. We're the first county to have a groundwater management plan, and the first plan was written in 1988. At the time, the county board felt the groundwater was an important issue, and so they formed a special subcommittee to really work on this and to address the issue. And out of that came the 1988 Groundwater Management Plan and the Groundwater Citizens Advisory Committee.
So we abbreviate that. Many citizens will hear it, abbreviated GCAC.
GCAC, yep.
GCAC, or
Yes.
Groundwater Citizen Advisory Committee.
Yep, and that's a totally unique function that I don't think exists anywhere else in the state. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist anywhere else in the state. GCAC is comprised of a representative from every town, village, and city in the county. At least one representative sits on GCAC. And really, they have a special job to go between their local municipality and the county. It's that go-between person that can bring issues back and forth, can share information on all of those to try and keep everybody informed, and to make sure that we're sharing information in the best way possible. Those citizens get together about once a month right now to not only share information, but they're also in the process right now of writing the groundwater management plan. That's one of the largest things that they're tasked with.
Revising our 2004 plan.
Yep, exactly. So GCAC's role is really an advising and a recommending committee. Their structure is set up so that they take information in on a whole bunch of different topics. They'll bring in experts, whatever they need in order to learn the most that they possibly can. Based on what they learned, then their job is to make recommendations. And really they have three committees that they report to: the Planning and Zoning Committee of the County Board, the Agricultural and Extension Education Committee, and the Land and Water Conservation Committee. So they'll make recommendations to those three committees based on the information that they're receiving. And then those three committees can take that information and those recommendations, and then if they feel it's appropriate, pass them up to the full county board at that time. So right now, GCAC is in the process. That 1988 groundwater management plan was revised in 2004, and we're going through the process right now of revising the 2004 edition. So this is about the third time that this plan has been looked at and revised.
I have a copy of the draft right here,
Yes.
and it's interesting. One of the things that we're making for, I think, a very useful change to the plan is to look in the future at housing it under our comprehensive plan for the county.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, Jen.
So that's one of the things we've heard. We have a lot of plans in the county, and all of them are very useful, and they're meant to be guiding documents for the members of the county board and the committees. You know, they're supposed to reference them, use them to make their decisions based on what the citizens want in the county. But it can sometimes be cumbersome to try and locate all of these different plans and things. And so we felt it would be a really good change to incorporate this into the county's comprehensive plan. So this newest edition will become a chapter in that plan. Not only is it a useful way to kind of store information within it, but this plan also references a lot of other information that can be found throughout the county comprehensive plan, such as land use and agricultural practices, other natural resource references. And so it only makes sense to kind of cross-reference those and house all of that information in the same place.
Mm-hmm. And economic visions and so on.
Exactly.
Right. That was a change that I really support greatly, and it reduces the silos. One more time,
It does.
You know, whenever we can integrate topics and visions and plans and activities to achieve common goals, it's a better outcome.
Absolutely. It makes it easier, you know, even between departments, you know, we're working on issues, and groundwater is one of those issues that's tied to so many different things that it really makes sense to look at it comprehensively.
We could say that it flows through all the other subject matter.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's true. So we're talking to Jen McNelly, our water resource specialist for Portage County, who is working out of our planning and zoning department. Let's see, you've been on staff now for, is it 2 years?
Just over a year, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
I guess, all right. Well, I don't even know what that
in a year.
says. That's great. Well, welcome all over again. I know that you're really moving things forward for us and helping us to address groundwater planning opportunities and issues for our future. Now, can you talk with us about the public planning process right now and a public input time frame that we're in?
Sure.
And then we're going to zoom out and I've got the copy of the groundwater draft plan with me, and we'll take the major goals of the plan and we'll start to highlight the content of those so that those that are listening or watching on television will be able to hear what's going to be included for action items in the plan, and then decide if it's something that they would like to weigh in on in helping to shape further.
So GCAC has spent about the past year creating the plan. They kind of wrapped that up end of July. In August, they hosted their first open house public presentation of the plan, which was an invite to the community members at large to come in, kind of get their first view at the plan, see what's included in there, and then provide some feedback and discussion about issues that they thought might need to be addressed, further details, those type of things. GCAC is soliciting feedback on the groundwater management plan through the months of August and September up through the beginning of October. They'll next meet at about October 20th is right now their tentative date. At that October 20th meeting, GCAC will be taking all of the feedback that they've received, and they'll be going through it point by point of how do we want to address this in the plan, how do we want to incorporate it, is it already in the plan and maybe somebody just missed it, but really to make sure that every single point is addressed and answered in some way, shape, or form.
And if a person has public input, since this show is airing in the month of October, if a person has public input and can provide it still in October.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it could still be integrated or considered.
To be completely honest, I'm not sure that we're going to get through all of that feedback in that October 20th meeting, you know, because it is kind of a long process to make sure that we incorporate all those ideas. So absolutely, if they have feedback, most definitely they should continue to provide it either through my office. There's an email on the county website where the plan is posted. You can submit information or feedback via that email address as well, or you can find your local GCAC representative through your town or village or city and make sure that they can take the information back to the committee as well.
Wonderful. If any of the listeners have a difficult time identifying who their Groundwater Citizen Advisory Committee member is, they can call our office too at the County Executive's office. We'll be able to provide them that information. Now, I've attended a lot of GCAC meetings, and one of the things I really love about it is the diversity of ideas and the different perspectives that people bring to the table in not just the board itself, the committee itself, but also in who attends. It's a very, very engaging situation, and I encourage listeners to see if they may be able to attend a Groundwater Citizen Advisory Committee in the future. It's usually, what is it, the fourth?
Usually about the third Thursday of the month.
I knew it was later in the month.
Is what we've been trying to shoot for.
So they could find out about upcoming meetings on the county's new website, or they can give your office a call. And let's go ahead and give a plug to that number if we could, Jen.
To our office number?
Yeah.
Yeah, 715-346-1334.
1334 it is. Great. All right, so let's highlight a few of the major components in the plan, and we'll just then be able to talk more about these topics as we go along. So goal number 1 for our groundwater management plan draft for Portage County is to maintain sufficient and sustainable groundwater quantities in Portage County to support the daily living needs of all Portage County residents, a thriving commercial, agricultural, and industrial economy, the quality of life in rural communities, recreational opportunities, and the health of groundwater-dependent surface water and their ecosystems. Well, that's a mouthful, and that's a big charge.
It is. So really, GCAC, let me back up first. A lot of people have asked, what are the big changes between the 2004 and the 2016 plan? One of the biggest ones is groundwater quantity. In the previous editions of the plan, it's been touched on a little bit, but it's always kind of been answered with the question, we don't really have a groundwater quantity issue. We have sufficient supply, things are good. That is changing in the county, and concerns are starting to be raised by a number of different people that we really need to be paying attention to this and closer. So one of the biggest changes we're going to see is this whole new section on groundwater quantity in this plan, and especially with the goals, objectives, and actions that address that. As far as the specific goal goes, yeah, GCAC really wanted to make sure that it was all-encompassing, that everybody uses groundwater in this county. We need to make sure that it's available for every use, for everybody who's using it, but they all need to be part of the play. They all need to be players in the game. And really that's what that goal is saying, is that we want to make sure that there's enough for everyone to use and to utilize in future.
That's an admirable goal, and certainly one I advocate for as well. That's the other thing I should mention to any listeners out there or viewers. In the groundwater management plan draft, before you get to any of the action steps proposed in the back, the really important, awesome thing about this is the stellar quality of the documentation at the front end of the plan. It'll give the listener or the reader, it'll give the reader an opportunity to really become a mini expert in the groundwater basics of quantity as well as quality issues and opportunities, and mapping and numbers and charts and so on. It's a fabulous effort, and I know that we've worked for many, many, many months on this, years really, on this particular aspect of the plan with our water resource experts at the university and in other resource areas as well, to be able to bring all that information, to put it in a capsule so that we had then solid information on which to make the action plan. So I give you a lot of credit in doing this, Jen, with a lot of other experts out there.
We have a fantastic technical advisory committee that sits down with myself and the GCAC members and really goes through that with a fine-tooth comb to make sure it's presenting an accurate picture of groundwater in Portage County. And it's really meant to serve as a primer for those people who really want to learn the basics and background of information.
That's a great way to say it. The groundwater management plan, even in its draft form, is an excellent primer. So the goal one was then especially around sufficient and sustainable groundwater quantities. Now I want to read goal number 2 for everybody out there. Maintain and improve groundwater quality in Portage County to support the daily living needs of all Portage County residents, a thriving commercial, agricultural, and industrial economy. I'm hearing some common words here.
Yes, absolutely.
The quality of life in rural communities, recreational opportunities, and the health of groundwater-dependent surface waters and their ecosystems.
Absolutely. So those same players that depend on the amount of water that's there also need to have good quality water in order for it to be usable for their everyday needs. And so just like quantity is important, quality is important as well. We want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on potential issues in the county, as well as looking at addressing current issues that we know that we kind of already have in the county, watching those, what can we do, what tools do we have available in our toolbox to address some of those right at the moment as well.
So let's talk about that. What are some quality-related concerns in Portage County? I'm familiar, but I would like the listeners and viewers to know.
Probably the biggest one that most people are going to be familiar with is nitrates. That's generally the number one. We're one of the higher counties in the state as far as nitrates go, the nitrate concentrations that are found in especially drinking water wells in the state. And so that's a concern in the county.
Why don't you tell everybody
Sure. Nitrates, excess high nitrates, we have a public drinking water standard of 10 parts per million for nitrates in drinking water. Above that, there is a risk of something called blue baby syndrome, and pregnant women and infants are not supposed to drink water over 10 parts per million. And we actually advise anyone in those populations for no long-term consumption of that water. It's something to be concerned with. And there are other health risks that have been kind of associated with it.
Potential cancers and
exactly.
things like that, especially for people with compromised immune systems. And that seems to be a much more common situation than most of us had ever even learned about or considered in the past.
Right, and we also use nitrates as kind of an indicator or tracer too, that if you're having elevated nitrates in your water, there's probably a chance that there's other things going on too that you're going to want to take a closer look at, or at least be aware of and keep an eye on for future to make sure that other things aren't changing as well. Because there is some impact, when you have elevated nitrate levels, it's showing that there's an impact to your drinking water that's taking place. So.
As we look at the objectives underneath that goal related to groundwater quality, one of the things that I wanted to point out was that you were mentioning in the draft plan for groundwater management in Portage County to develop a monitoring strategy for drinking water quality in Portage County. Of course, those on public drinking water systems, such as in the city of Stevens Point, have a different situation. Their water quality has to meet various standards before it comes out of your faucet, basically. But at home in a private system, private well, system, then it's up to us as homeowners to get our own wells checked.
Yep, you have to be your own monitor to make sure that you have the drinking water quality that you want in your well. And so it's really up to you to be keeping an eye on that.
And how does one do that? Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Sure. The best way to do that is to conduct a water sample of your well, which actually, luckily for the residents of Stevens Point and Portage County, is pretty easy.
Yes.
We're blessed to have the Wisconsin Environmental Analysis Lab right here on campus at UWSP, and so you can just contact them, and they will provide you with the bottle that you need in order to take a water sample of your own tap, and you can bring it right back to campus or even send it in, and they'll test your water at their state-certified lab and provide you with the results. The basic test for what we consider called the homeowners package is about $49, and it includes things like nitrate and bacteria, and then a number of other parameters that aren't quite as necessarily health-related, but that people want to know about.
Sure, sure. And when we think about so many of the national issues and global issues, we know one thing for sure, that water issues will continue to be more important going forward than they'll have ever been in our history.
Yes.
Yes, and anyway, I wanted to put a plug in right now for an item that I am going to be putting in our 2017 budget, and that is that we are going to have a county-wide groundwater monitoring study conducted with the help of our state water staff at the university to go ahead and give us a brand new baseline, and this is exactly what's mentioned in the plan. We knew that we had data that comes up because a homeowner here gets a test, or we have a monitoring well over there that has a test, but when you put all of these things together, it doesn't give you a uniform picture that's all in a same general time frame to give you a clear snapshot. So we're going to take a clear groundwater quality snapshot of nitrates and bacterial aspects in our water in the coming year, and then that will give us the first step, and we'll be able to then get back to what else does the plan call for, and what else do we need to take next steps on. And there's really an important piece of this that I relate to environmental justice. Those that are living in poverty situations can't afford necessarily that $49 water test for the homeowner package. So to me, it's up to us in our government role to assist in guiding us forward and ensuring that we're not having people get sick on our water here, and that we're doing everything that we can to protect the future of our water resources and our people then, and our economy here in the county by putting some good energy around that up front.
And that's really exciting for us. You'll see throughout the plan that monitoring is kind of a big component of that. And it's really one of those tools that provides us with a baseline of information to base all of our other management decisions on. And so it's a really something very valuable for our county to be able to do that.
I went over to the water lab, and we talked. I come with a science background, so we were three science folks were sitting together to come up with a basic strategy, and it's a grid. We'll create a grid scenario in our county, and we'll be able to stretch the dollars. Instead of every homeowner package at $49, we'll be able to get a whole 820 some square mile snapshot for a baseline price, and follow up with those homeowners where we discover that there are concern areas in the water. Just to at least educate them, let them know. Maybe there's someone pregnant in their home. Maybe there's someone that's got a compromised immune system that's going to have to pay some extra special attention to the quality of the water that they're drinking at that time. And maybe then we can also identify where there are concern areas related to environmental practices, for that is where it's from mostly. 90-some% of the nitrates in our water are because of our practices as human beings on this land. It's not a naturally occurring situation for the vast majority of the nitrate concern that we get out of the water quality issues in Portage County. So anyway, and the third goal, okay, so we've mentioned goal number 1, goal number 2. So 1 was on quantity, 2 was on quality. Now let's talk about 3. That was a neat one to read too. That is to create an environment that allows for continuous communication and facilitates the accomplishment of water quality and quantity goals. And a lot of the objectives there really center on collaboration and partnership.
Yes, absolutely. We have fantastic resources, not just within our county, but across the state. And it's really important that we're working together to make sure that we're utilizing these resources to the best of our abilities and using them so that we can move these goals forward and really find the accomplishments that we need. So whether it's working with other departments within the county, such as the Land and Water Conservation Department or the County Health Department, Groundwater touches all of these different things. And so it only makes sense for us to be working collaboratively to make sure that we're addressing some of these issues that we're seeing in the county, as well as our state agencies, DNR, all
and
of
local.
Those. Exactly.
Our growers associations and collaboratives and so on.
Agriculture,
Yep.
our citizen, our concerned citizen groups. There's just so many out there and so many fabulous resources. And they all bring a different perspective to the table as well, which is important when you're discussing these issues, because everybody has different needs when it comes to their water and their uses and things. And we want to make sure that we're taking all of those into consideration.
One of the things that I appreciate is that when we had conducted the groundwater listening sessions across our county, and then we had a groundwater summit, those citizen input times also then provided inputs. They're referenced at the front of the plan, and then I can see where those thoughts brought forward through those processes with hundreds of people involved have now shown up in the plan.
Yeah, absolutely. The lists and the information that was collected during all of those things were used by the members of GCAC to help create some of these actions and these goals and objectives to make sure that we were addressing things that citizens identified that they needed and wanted in the county.
So Jen McNelly, our water resource specialist here in Portage County, talk a little bit about, we have maybe a couple of minutes left in the show. Can you talk a little bit about what kinds of inputs you're receiving? What seems to be missing to this point in time that you think is going to end up getting some extra consideration, for example?
I think one of the big issues that we've seen just within the last month are some concerns with manure management and waste management in the county and how that relates to groundwater. I think that was a piece that was maybe not addressed to its fullest in this draft of the plan. Historically, that's been largely addressed in the Land and Water Conservation Management Plan, just a different plan, but there's definitely overlap, and we really want to make sure that we're bringing that element into this plan and addressing it as well as in the Land and Water Plan as well. So I think that's maybe one of the biggest ones that we've seen from feedback.
And the whole biosolids aspect of spreading human waste. I'm doing some extra homework on this right now. In fact, I've been making some good progress in getting myself educated. I didn't have very much background in understanding this before, but I have to say that we're going to look forward. I think it'll be in November that I'll be organizing a public input meeting for folks to come and learn about what is it, what does it mean, what are the practices and the concerns, and where is the waste coming from, and where is it spread in our county. It's actually a lot more common than many of us are aware. So when we talk about manure management, we need to be talking about other kinds of manure, and human manure is part of this practice of our world right now. So we do need to be looking at how does that figure into this, and I think maybe the underlying component in all of this is education, 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 and see where we can find common areas that we can work on to solve issues and problems. And if we join together, we really can make a difference when it comes to groundwater.
That's absolutely it. It's a very complicated issue with a lot of different factors that play into it. And so it's a great thing to be able to sit down at a table with a lot of different people and a lot of different experts and have these discussions and figure all these different things out. As with anything, there's always misinformation out there too, and to kind of sift through all of that and really get at what are the concerns that people have, and what are the needs that the county has as far as how do we manage this and how do we deal with this.
So the public input time frame is upon us. If you're interested and concerned about groundwater, now is your time. You can go to the Portage County website for the draft 2016 Groundwater Management Plan. You can call our office, call Jen McNelly at the Planning and Zoning Department, and all of us will help you get yourself ready to provide valuable input that will guide our future on water. Thanks for joining us on Portage County Matters. Thanks, Jen, for being my guest.
Thanks, Patty, for having me.